After longtime trusted aide Hope Hicks has tested positive for COVID-19, we are told, Todd, Hope Hicks has been showing symptoms, mild symptoms of coronavirus. So far, we haven't heard too many details about the president and first lady. We have heard that so far they are not.
I always knew she was trouble.
Coming just days after the president was with Hope Hicks at certain events, last Saturday at a rally in Pennsylvania, Tuesday at the debate in Cleveland, Wednesday at a rally in Minnesota.
And of course, upon hearing the news,
Monica Lewinsky
in so many different areas,
took Bill Clinton down.
We've been with you all night long to try and
Hope
answer
Hicks
as many
gave
of those questions
Donald
as
Trump the
possible. Just to
COVID.
highlight a few, your initial attention goes
We better
to
pray
President
that he gets better.
Of course, Hope Hicks. What is their medical prognosis?
Well, yes, Hope Hicks is a new Monica Lewinsky.
Obviously, these are questions we don't have answers to
And I
right
will
now,
not look
but ones we are certainly
at it the
curious
same
about.
way.
And then the question goes to politics. What does this mean for the campaign? What does this mean for, quite frankly, governing the country?
She's always
I know
touching her
President
hair.
is a
She's always
robust
touching her
individual.
face.
We are assuming that he has the very best of care because he is the President of the United States. But those questions need to be asked because it's something that is on the minds of Americans this morning.
Well, and also you ask, who else surrounding the president could potentially test positive for COVID-19. Peter Doocy was on air with Ashley Strohmeyer earlier this morning as she was spearheading our coverage overnight, and he had the news that Mark Meadows, the White House chief of staff, has tested negative for coronavirus. So that's the information that we got overnight. Of course, you've heard a lot of people, you've heard Griff Jenkins talk about it, you've heard Kevin Corke talk about it in the overnight hours, that when you are one of those people who is surrounding the president day in and day out, you are tested, if not daily, at least pretty much
Right.
consistently daily. For the most part, they're getting daily tests. And, they were both a little bit surprised. You heard Kevin Corke there in a soundbite just a couple minutes ago saying, you are a little surprised because they are tested so routinely. They are tested so much at the White House.
Along those lines, let's pop up on the screen what the protocols are. Staffers must wear a mask upon entry. Keep social distance from colleagues. Aides scheduled to meet with the president are tested that day. Secret Service agents close to the president must wear masks. One question we have not yet raised during our hour and a half on air, and I didn't hear too much of it in our coverage initially. What happens to the confirmation of Amy Coney Barrett? Keep in mind, it was just last Saturday at around 5 p.m. that Amy Coney Barrett and her entire family were at the White House for that groundbreaking, historic introduction of her as the nominee from the Trump administration to be the 9th justice on the Supreme Court. She's got 7 kids. She has a husband. The focus then turns to her health. And when did the president contract this? How safe is she? And what does this mean going forward for the process? Because she's been in contact with a number of senators this week.
But we've also had doctors on the show this morning saying contact tracing at the White House is different than contact tracing outside of the White House, right? Because you figure at the White House, as we mentioned, people are tested on a routine basis, on a daily basis. So you're going to be able to pretty quickly, according to the doctors we've spoken to anyway, figure out who is positive for COVID-19, who is not. Now, the question that I have right now that, we still don't know because it's not even 5 a.m. yet on the East Coast here. And as we mentioned, this news is breaking overnight. Mike Pence, our vice president, has he been in close contact with the president? There's a debate next week for the vice presidential, for the candidates for Mike Pence and Kamala Harris. Could that possibly be in jeopardy if the vice president has been around the president? These are all questions that we're going to learn more about later in the morning as the sun comes up, as more people wake up, and of course, as that contact tracing starts to kick in even at a higher rate.
And you mentioned the vice presidents. What does this mean for the Biden campaign? I asked Dr. Siegel that earlier, what his advice would be to the campaign, because they are presented with an opportunity. We live in a very, very rough and tumble political world. Does Vice President Biden take this opportunity to campaign when President Trump, quite frankly, will be off the campaign trail? Or does Joe Biden say, look, in an abundance of caution, I myself am going to quarantine as well? So many unanswered questions. We just learned this news about 4 hours ago at this point, 4 to 5 hours ago. We're going to guide you through it throughout the next hour before we toss on and off to Fox and Friends.
And also keep in mind the president, he's been on a pretty robust traveling schedule with the rallies, with the debate. He was scheduled to travel to Florida for a rally. One of the questions remains now is, what will happen to that rally? Is that going to happen virtually? Is that not going to happen at all? So these are things that we're going to continue to learn, continue to follow. But once again, if you are just waking up and just joining us, the President of the United States and First Lady Melania Trump have tested positive for COVID-19. 19th.
This is a terrible time for this to happen. 30
Very early hours, shortly before 1
days
Oh.
o'clock this morning.
out
Continuing coverage of this
before the
situation.
election.
President Trump and the First Lady testing positive continues. Congressman and Dr. Mark Green will join us at the
About
top
1
of the
month.
hour. Do not go anywhere.
Before the election. Pray for your president.